Hello everybody, welcome to the Dunwich Legacy Buying Guide, where we're going to be talking about the deluxe expansions and its 6 mythos packs, giving you our pros and cons and any notable player cards for if you are deciding that you want to buy this cycle. We released a buying guide before, which will be in the link down below, where we talk about the entire product availability for the game to see what you want to buy, and this is kind of just a focused look at Dunwich Legacy. If you are buying individual mythos packs, if you're like, I want to know which ones to get first, if you're not buying the whole thing at once, we do recommend, if you want to play the full cycle and get the full campaign, you need to buy the whole thing to play it. And of that note as well, what we said in the previous buying guide, I still stand by today, which is don't spend more money than like retail price if it's out of print. Don't spend like $50 or even like, don't spend so much money on the Miskatonic Museum. Just wait for it to be reprinted.
You're paying like $5 more. And it's like,
I mean, like that's like I would consider like that's a normal, like some stores just cost a bit more than others, right? But like, don't go to a scalper who's like tripling the price. That's ridiculous. Don't do that.
Also, you could potentially play this cycle if you were any cycle actually, if you're missing only like a single pack or something like that, and you can just head on over to our other videos in the channel and watch us play through it and take our resolution experience.
Yeah, just do that.
And slot it into your own campaign.
Something that one of the people asked in the comment on the buying guide that we can quickly go about here is, can you play a campaign if you're missing a pack? And ultimately, you probably could get away with it, right? Like if you really just want to get the full experience, just like, if you're not worried about spoilers, you can totally do it. If you are worried about spoilers, you obviously can't. So it really comes down to that. And if you need something to do, find one of our videos of us playing it, and just, as Travis said, use our resolution. Why not?
Because we always do good.
There is not... so there is also the Return to Dunwich Legacy, which you might be wondering if you're picking up. If you're a new player, we don't recommend picking up the Returns to unless you really want the storage box it comes into, which we are going to, as requested by some viewers, we are going to release a video about how we store the game to give some... and most notably, how you travel with the game, because Travis has to bring his entire collection here every time we record. So he's a pro at traveling with Arkham Horror. We're not going to talk about...
I don't have to bring all the cycles, just the one that we're playing.
It's true, but you do bring all the player cards, which is still a hefty part of the game. We're not going to be talking about the Return Tos in detail. There's going to be a future video about those. However, if you have any comments about the Return To, and while you wait for the video, you can ask in the comments below, because Travis and I do check them, and we both respond to them, which is super fun to do. Let's dive in and start talking about the individual boxes and their notable player cards. Does anyone else have any general comments about the cycle before I get going?
I think you covered it.
Nice.
Yeah, me too. I got some stuff to say, but I'll wait till the end.
Sounds good. All right. We're going to start with the Dunwich Legacy itself, which this is the pack that comes with 2 scenarios. The House Always Wins and Extracurricular Activity. They also have the Investigator. So this is what you need to buy the Dunwich Legacy Deluxe to play the entire cycle. Yeah. So this is like, if there's one thing you need to buy, it's this. So Bryn, what are your pros and cons for the Dunwich Legacy Deluxe box?
Well, so for the Dunwich Legacy box, we, like most of the deluxe boxes, we get 2 scenarios. These ones, neither of them is the first scenario of the game. You can play them in either order, and they change. The way they work changes depending on which one you have played first. So you get a lot of replay value out of that, and the scenarios themselves are pretty good.
And your cons?
Yeah. Like I think this is probably, if what you have is a core set, or even like any of the other campaigns, this deluxe box is quite strong. Like it offers a lot of value in player cards. Even if you're just playing the 2 first scenarios, you can get a lot of play out of those 2 scenarios. I don't really have any complaints about this one.
Cool. For me, the Clover Club scenario, House Always Wins, is an interesting change of pace. It was the first scenario that we played in order. It might not be for you if you've played out of order, But if you want a really like weird kind of scenario that's like not just go grab clues from a location, it's kind of more, it's engaging. It's really interesting and thematic, but it does have its problems, as Travis gets to in his cons, which I'm not going to jump in on, but it is a nice, fun change of pace. It's a lot better than extracurricular activity as well. That one's a kind of plain. Also, you get investigators. And I said this in all the comments, and I'll say it again. If you're a new player, the content I will suggest most is new investigators, because scenarios are fun, but each investigator plays different enough that like it'll give you more replayability to have more investigators. And luckily, all the investigators in this pack are strong, except for Jim, who I love. I love the guy, and I love the idea of him. And I just recently had a horrible breakup with him, and he's just not great. Like, he's just not that good. So if you're looking for a purple investigator specifically, this pack might not be for you. The Clover Club scenario also can be a bit luck dependent. Sometimes you can just like absolutely frickin' biff it just because luck's not on your side. You can cheat by the rules of the game, but it's still not fun when that happens. And of the two scenarios you do second, the second one becomes very rushed, so you don't really feel like you're playing a full scenario when it comes. Thematically it makes sense, but sometimes it just lacks a bit. What about you, Travis?
Most of the same pros as you guys. The investigators are all very strong. Apart from Jim. Jim is... Don't get me wrong, Jim's like, I think he's a good investigator, but you need a much larger collection to take advantage of his ability than for the other investigators. You can't just dump whatever in their deck. And personally, I find Jenny like a little bit boring, but I recognize that she is good. Both scenarios, they're unique and fun. The gambling thing, something that they don't really touch on actually in any of the other scenarios. It's a very unique, good time. And then the campus one is one of the first scenarios they released that really had divergent win conditions and had like long-term repercussions in the scenario or in the campaign. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're not huge divergence or huge repercussions, but they are there.
Yeah.
So yeah, cons, Jim's man with a bigger card pool as mentioned. The blue cards in this pack are like pretty disappointing if you're looking at our notable cards thing, which is very nice, Justin. None of them are blue. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, because the second one you kind of get like maybe not quite 1.5 scenarios. It's like 1 3/4 a bit, but the second one's like a little bit rushed. It's not. It really feels like a scenario 1 part 2 as opposed to a scenario 2. And then the Clover Club scenario. This is something that I'm gonna talk about quite a bit in this campaign. But there's quite a few opportunities where someone in your team just doesn't really get to play.
Yeah.
And this is one of them for the clue getters. So.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that coming up a lot. I was thinking about that too when I was making my pros and cons. For me, notable cards as it's going through, I think if you're new to our channel, I love Pete Sylvester. Like, I love the dude. Level 0 and level 2, and Fire Axe is also good. It's probably one of the strongest red weapons, especially in like for cycles into time. We're starting to get new ones now, but like for a long time, Fire Axe was like the red weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anything you want to mention of those, Bryn?
Wow, this is like where green cards first start to kind of not suck, and I find that exciting.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Travis?
Yeah, like if you notice cycling through, there's lots of good red cards here, especially. Mm-hmm. Shortcut in particular. I play a lot of yellow decks, and so Shortcut starts in like 90% of my decks, and I look for a reason to remove it as opposed to keeping it. I've also played a fair amount of Mystics. Rite of Seeking was something that I was not super hot on when it came out for a long time after. But I've played with it a little bit recently, and I've kind of come around, especially on the higher leveled versions of it. I think it's a pretty solid card.
Yeah, cool.
Good even.
All right, let's hop on over to the Miskatonic Museum. In this one, you're exploring the Miskatonic Museum after hours to find the Necronomicon, but there's a big spooky snake there as well, with wings, which makes it even more scary. Bryn, what are your pros and cons here?
Yeah, so the part I like about this scenario is it's like sort of Scooby-Doo feel to it almost. So you're running around the museum, running away from the monster. Got the Benny Hill music playing, and you're trying not to die.
Yeah.
It's a fun encounter for everyone but the blue player. Yeah. So this one, like my cons for this, if you're trying to kill monsters, you're not going to have a good time. I'm not going to explain why or go into that, but like you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, my spoilers are just mine.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I did when I recently played this one. I was lucky as the blue player. We drew the monster on the first turn, so I got to like fight him throughout the whole thing. But yeah, this one can be a bit bad for the blue player. For me, the mood of this scenario, it really works. It really does feel like you're tiptoeing around a creepy museum at night, especially when you are exploring the random exhibits. I do find it kind of a little bit weird that the people in Arkham, I imagine these people, they've never been to the museum, so they don't know what they're expecting, so they get scared by a bear when they walk into one of the exhibits. And kind of like, I forgot about the aspects that Travis said in extracurricular activity, where it kind of has an overreaching kind of effect on the whole campaign. This is the one that I really first feel it, that I remembered. I forgot about the one, but it does happen in extracurricular as well, where a choice you make and consequences, if things don't go well for you, that will affect you for the entire campaign through the token cup, which is really cool. And when you know what to do, this scenario is super boring. The first time through, it's good. Like, you're like, this is really cool, and it's like really exciting. And then you get to it, and you're like, oh no, we gotta play the Miskatonic Museum again. And it's just not a super duper fun time. Travis?
Yeah, so this one, like they says, it's a really cool concept. You know, you're slinking around through the museum, and there's a big scary monster who's hunting you. Once he catches your scent, he's gonna follow you like forever. But I think that this scenario is garbage. I think that this is like legitimately one of, if not the worst scenarios in the game right now. Especially on replays.
I was when I was making my cons, I was trying to find a way to say it, because I'm like, this is like one of the lowest tier scenarios for me, joined by like 3 others off the top of my head. And then I saw Travis's con, and I'm like, oh, don't worry, Travis will say it. Like, I don't need to put it into words.
Oh, no, I'm here to tell people shit's bad.
Yeah.
This one's not even my least favorite in this campaign.
Oh no, there's a worse one in this campaign. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I think it's pretty close to me for those two. But I'm definitely like the Simon Cowell for our group here.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I played this one recently with my family. This is their first full cycle they've been playing, and like I came into it, I knew what my job was, and like I started doing it. I'm not gonna tell you because I don't want to spoil it for you. But my family was like, "That doesn't seem fun," and I'm like, "It's not fun, but we're gonna win easily because of it."
Yeah.
And we did.
Notable cards are actually a good chunk of cards in this pack.
I was gonna say this pack just crushes it in terms of this has like some really really good cards.
And honestly, like compared to Echoes of the Past, which is the Carcosa one that's always out of print. I know Miskatonic Museum is hard to get, and this one actually makes sense to me. It has some killer player cards. I'll let you guys talk about them because they're more, I mean, Delve Too Deep I love that card, and it's a must include in all your purple decks. Hey, look, there it is. What about you guys for what you guys put for notable? How about Bryn first?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I've got the painkillers and the smoking pipe on this. There they are. But these cards are a huge boon for all of the 9 and 5 or 5 and 9 investigators. Where, like, you know, the ones who, we'll use Roland as an example, but like, you know, you get a mental trauma early, and you're just like, I don't get to play ever. Those 2 items just let you shuffle your damage around, so you can, you know, like heal a horror, but you have to take a damage, or vice versa. And that can be very useful for some of those heavily slanted investigators.
Yeah, I know you also love adaptable.
Oh man, I play adaptable probably more than any other permanent.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it just lets you shuffle your cards around in your deck. So, you know, like maybe you've been playing for a while and you're like, this card isn't really performing. I'd like to replace it with something else.
Yeah, after recording the Lord of the Rings yesterday, it feels like you're kind of playing Lord of the Rings a bit.
Yeah.
Travis, what about you?
Brother Xavier is a card that I think we don't respect enough anymore, but he used to be in like almost all of our blue decks for like probably the first 2 or 3 years we played this game. He's just a really solid, really good card. Flare, I think, is a card that we don't respect enough, partially because we don't play. Justin plays red decks, and he doesn't like paying money for things when he does. He just likes playing Dark Horse decks, which we'll talk about later.
I thought
I've got
Justin was going to say that card was good because it could find Pete.
I mean, I love Flare. It's just...
It can do that.
Yeah.
I've got a plan is just like a solid addition to yellow decks to enable them to deal with enemies in like any capacity.
Yep.
And then Pathfinder is a card. You're going to hear this comment from me a lot for a lot of yellow cards in this cycle, but Pathfinder is kind of broken.
Yes. Yeah.
So
let's move
Seems
on.
like maybe a little too good.
Let's move on to the train. In this one, you're on a train, and you gotta start the train because bad things are happening, and you gotta go fast. Bryn, what are your pros and cons for this one?
Oh. So this one to me was the first scenario where, like, it felt like we were doing something outside of the norm of what I expect from an Arkham Files game.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of the other ones were kind of running around investigating strange goings on, and then at the end we're either fighting a giant monster or facing off against the cult or whatever, right? This one is different. We're not investigating anything. We're just here trying not to die. If we don't die, we win. So it's a very different feel to it.
Yeah.
The part I don't like about this is there are many draws out of, especially early in the scenario, there are many draws that you can hit out of the Mythos deck that are unbeatable. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't like that part. But, the games where that doesn't happen, I do kind of like this scenario.
Yeah, no, I like to think that, as I said, in mine, the theme is really cool. And, like, it works really well. You're on a train and you must go fast. Like, it feels like that. As well as, because of what's happening, the scenario is a good kind of stressful when you're not getting screwed over by the draw. Because a bad draw can just ruin your entire day with this one. The other thing that's kind of a negative, but kind of also a positive, it's the same thing. You must go fast. So there's no time to do fun things. If you're spending time not going, you will lose. Travis, what about you?
Yeah, they cover it. This is a fun scenario. You're on a train, and trains go fast. You gotta go fast. It feels like you're like scrabbling through the train cars trying to get from one to the other. It's a good time. But yeah, this one can be like a little bit actually on the tough side, especially draw dependent, and what's going on can really blindside new players and make them feel cheated if they don't pick up on it. But overall, I think it's a good scenario.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good one. It's one of the ones that I
probably third favorite from this campaign.
Oh, so we have okay. I think honestly, it's probably my third favorite too.
I think there's two others that are just like far and above it.
Oh, I'm interested to see how much Travis likes Where Doom Awaits. Wow.
Undimensioned and Unseen.
Yeah.
Noble cards.
This one has some pretty good cards. It has Relic Hunter and Charisma, which are like... Charisma especially, we play a lot. Bryn plays a lot of Relic Hunter, but like we play a lot of Charisma at this table, and I imagine a lot of people do. Allies are strong, and having 2 in play are great. And also, Deduction level 2 is just bonkers. I've recently been waking up in the middle of the night just being like, deduction. Like I'm just like, deduction is so good. After especially our tempos videos, it's just bore into my skull that deduction is a good card and deduction 2 is even better.
I played a Luke deck not too long ago with 10 experience, and my experience was spent on deduction 2s, and with practice makes perfect. That card is nuts.
So crazy.
No, it really is.
Travis, what about you?
Art Student's a pretty solid additional ally to add to your deck for yellow guys. It helps you suck up a clue off of high shroud locations, take some damage for you. Shriveling 3 is good. It makes your purple characters actually be able to fight things.
Yeah.
Good. Lets them scale with the game a bit better as opposed to just having Shriveling 1 being This is my level 0 gun.
I have 5.
Yeah.
And then, Bryn, what does Switchblade 2 bring to the table?
Man. So, if you're playing a green character who wanted to play Switchblade 2, so instead of just being fight, if you succeed by 2 or more, you deal an extra damage. This one is fight plus 2 if you succeed by 2. So it brings the 2 that you need to succeed by with it. And even if you don't succeed by 2 or more, you still just score the damage with the +2.
Yeah.
If you're playing a green character who wanted to play Switchblade, that's the single 2 most valuable experience I think you could play.
Yeah, definitely.
In the game.
All right, let's move on to Blood on the Altar. And this one, you finally arrive to Dunwich, but things are a little bit strange, and then Earl Sawyer gets put into a bag and dragged into the woods. Bryn, what are your pros and cons for this?
This is just normal Dunwich goings on. Yeah, like it feels strange because we're not from Dunwich, but yeah, like the scenario does feel. There. Yeah, this is just how it is. They're like, Earl Sawyer's gone. Guess he's probably dead.
Yeah.
Oh well.
poor Earl.
Yeah, sucks. No, the scenario really does. It feels like Dunwich always has.
Mm-hmm.
They do a good job of capturing that feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like my complaint about this is that it doesn't do anything cool or new.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Not really. We're just kind of running around, investigating, finding bits of things, and then trying to throw a wrench in the bad guy's plan.
Yeah. For me, the theme of this scenario really shines, and because of that, it's my personal favorite scenario of the cycle. I don't think it's like the best designed scenario of the cycle, but it's my personal favorite. I love cults. I love creepy villages. I love the vibes that this one has. It just really feels like it just resonates with me really high on the theme one. I think this is like it's a banger. The pace of the scenario can be a little off depending on how it is designed. You can sometimes, Travis is going to get into more of this because this is his con as well, is that sometimes you can just like get there instantly or not get there until like it's closer to too late. It also can suck if one of your allies are sacrificed, because it can happen, but it's very hard to have happen. But I imagine that can kind of be a feel bad for players at this point in the campaign.
Yeah, one day we're going to have to play this one and try to get Pete sacrificed.
No! Travis, what are your pros and cons?
Yeah, this is just a good scenario. It's probably, if you had asked me, I think like 2 years ago, up until about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I would have said this is my second favorite scenario in the cycle, but I think it's tied for first now. For pretty much the reasons you guys outlined. It's just, it feels like Dunwich. It feels like Arkham. It's nice. It doesn't do anything fancy. It's just good.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And if you were going to pick up any pack from this cycle, apart from the luck, of course, because you need the cards from that, to play just for the scenario, I would recommend this one.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, like the scenario could be a little bit RNG depending on where there's some cards that get randomly dealt out. Depending on which location they end up at, you can like just cruise this scenario, or it can be a bit of a slog. But there really isn't it's not a huge deal.
Yeah. For notable cards, we have the entire cycle of the permanents, including higher education, which was bonkers when it was released.
Yeah, like actually broken.
Like, they're all pretty good. Like, they're all, I mean, a permanent thing that's in play that you don't need to play that you can spend your resources on to get things is super nice. So if you're looking for something like that, they're in Blood on the Altar. There's also Prepared for the Worst, which gets you weapons, which that little bit of deck consistency is super crucial to ensuring that you win more.
That was huge when it came out for us. Just like, my God, I can actually just... There's a very common problem when we first started playing the game, is like whoever's supposed to kill monsters is like, I don't have a gun.
Yeah.
I forgot it at home.
Yeah. Like, well, especially when your card pool is smaller and you only have like 2 different weapons that you can choose from that actually do extra damage.
You can't actually just play 5 or 6 copies of like solid weapons.
Yeah. The last notable card is Lone Wolf, which is still good in multiplayer, but it's also like great for green solo. Just get an extra resource a turn. That's pretty sweet.
It's an actually good green card. Wow.
Yeah. All right, let's get to Undimensioned and Unseen. Oh no, a bunch of baby Yogg Sothoths have escaped, and you got to stop them by throwing paint on them or getting a dog to bark at them.
Okay,
Bryn.
look at those taunts.
Yeah. So I guess like Travis and mine are like pretty close to the same. Yeah, I had to think of something good that I could say about this one, and like honestly, this one probably does give you the most game time for your dollar. Like you will get to play more Arkham Horror with this scenario than you probably want to.
Yeah.
Which is also my con. Sometimes you sit down to play this and you're like, yeah, come on, let's go. 50-minute adventure, in, out. And then, like 3.5 hours later, you're like, why aren't we fucking done yet?
Yeah, free me. I think the scenario can feel very spooky, especially when a bunch of the brood are out there and then other monsters start showing up. It can really feel pretty intense. But my con is you have 2 hours to spend doing the same thing over and over and over again, right? Because that's what this is. Buckle up, it's just that over and over and over again. The scenario can also be frustratingly, don't ignore the typo, RNG dependent, because the broods move randomly, and it's just, that's what contributes to the game time as well, because you're spending a lot of time shuffling cards and moving things around. I think like the first time we played, we used dice to move them around, which was not recommended.
No idea.
Travis.
Don't do that.
My pros are the noble cards. This pack is really good cards. I have nothing good to say about the scenario. Scenario is only fun for the first hour.
Yeah.
We play pretty fast. Every time we've played this, it's taken us like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, except for the
one time Brittany and I played it, and we just got crushed in like 20 minutes. Like, just absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, I think the average scenario is like an hour, and then this one you have to like add a half hour per player over one, right? So 90 minutes for 2. I couldn't imagine this one with 4 players. So Travis, have you got there with your family yet?
No, we're doing Blow on the Altar this week.
Yeah, that's gonna be that's gonna be your like, all right, everybody, buckle up. Let's put Lord of the Rings on in the background because
play this one like Sunday afternoon instead of Saturday night, maybe.
Travis, any notable cards you want to talk about?
Well, they're all kind of good actually.
Yeah.
Or a lot of them are good, but Inquiring Mind really jumps out as just like a great yellow skill.
Mm-hmm.
Quick Thinking is like one of the few. I mean, not few, but like one of the easy green cards that's kind of broken is printed. I'll let Brent talk about Opportunist. Right of Seeking 4 is like where Right of Seeking is like really good.
Yeah, ripped older brother.
Yeah, you get like 3 clues off one action, and even if you draw the bad thing, who cares? You just use your last action for it.
Yeah.
And then Dark Horse is one was probably Justin's favorite card for a long time.
Yeah, it's
played card.
I see a very easy way to get increased stats, and I love it. And with Fire Axe, it's really easy to still get your resources and also spend them to cut people up. Brent actually didn't put Opportunist on the list. I actually put it on the list.
Okay, well, I'll talk about it then. This Opportunist is particularly important because you get it back if you succeed by 2 or more, and then it commits 1. So if you have 2 of them, then you just get +2 to all your tests, and you get them back for free every time in theory. Yeah. So you just kind of get to succeed by 2 for all your other cards that care about that for free every time.
Brent, anything you want to add to these cards?
No, I think that's pretty good. Like Justin said, the card I put on the list was Dark Horse, although I was pretty sure that like everyone was going to.
Yeah. I kind of just the way that is, I took your guys' list and I just kind of poked where I saw we might have missed one, and I think it's only Deduction 2 and Opportunist that I added. So.
Okay.
You nailed it.
No, Dark Horse is just like a really cool build around, and I like that kind of card.
Yeah, and the next build around I want is the On Your Own in red, which we'll get to in the future. But.
I'm not gonna let you guys go away from this scenario quite yet. This is the second worst scenario in this cycle, per my opinion, and I'm pretty sure it's the worst per your guys' opinion. I say it's the second worst because at least it's fun. Oh no, actually the other one might be.
I think this one is the second worst for me.
I don't think this is the second worst, but I think the museum's the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, I would rather play the museum than this one because it ends after about an hour of my life.
Yeah, but at least I get to play the game without.
You know, this one actually probably would be the worst one for me because it takes so long, and I'd rather play 2 scenarios than 1 really long scenario. This is the one that when we get to, I dread. So that's probably, and there's only a few scenarios. There's this one. I don't like Miskatonic Museum, but I'm not like, oh, let's play Miskatonic Museum. It's this one, and then Echoes of the Past and Heart of the Elders. Those are the ones where I dread playing them.
You can sort of see from my con that, like, I think this scenario is like not quite as bad because the first hour of it is actually fun. You're playing the game, like you're trying to do the thing, and then after like an hour, give or take, you're like, man, we're still playing, eh?
And like this is actually why
And that's
I
not
want to
even
bring. I want to
halfway.
do separate videos for the return to boxes because we can talk about these in great detail. Because this one actually improves a lot with the return to.
Mhm.
Oh,
It
for
does.
sure.
But yeah, you get to move on, Travis.
Yeah, I'm done now.
Cool. Where doom awaits. I had a hard time writing the description for this one, but basically you climb up a tall hill and a dude's on the top.
You should have left it at that. You just climb up a hill. That's it.
Yeah. Bryn, what are yours?
Yeah, so again, I didn't really have. Justin was like, give me a pro and a con for each one. And I was like, I don't have one for this one.
Yeah.
There's nothing, I have nothing good to say about this, really.
So Bryn's really should say see
yeah.
notable player cards.
Yeah, like it has the upgrades for the Strange Solution card that they put in at the beginning that didn't do anything. And that was really exciting. And like, I guess that's kind of cool. Yeah, no, this scenario is like an absolute mess to set it up and then to play it too, because you're playing with it's like a 70 card mythos deck or something like that, and you've got all kinds of different sets in there that are like, well, these cards are really bad if you draw 2 or 3 of them, and you're like,
Maybe I won't.
yeah, that's neat. What if I only draw 1?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this is my least favorite from this cycle.
I'm going to say see notable player cards for my pro as well, but even like the player cards in this pack aren't crazy good either. Just like if the player cards interest you, buy this pack if you're looking to pick up individual packs. The scenario itself is very bland. It's also not well balanced, which I forgot to put here, but like there's a whole problem that if you're playing this like solo and you are the like a fighter with low book, like you could just not pass. Like you could just like not progress because you have to make a book test like a bunch of times in the game to do things. And then when you get to the top, you're not really even rewarded with an awesome moment. Like you just have this boss fight that's like either solved in text or you're like, all right, let's punch man. Travis.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start with my cons first. Yeah, the scenario is like really RNG dependent, as they mentioned. Big mythos deck, lots of different stuff going on. Another thing is like if you don't have any willpower, you just don't get to play.
Mm-hmm.
If you show up this with 3 people who all have 3 willpower, like you're screwed. Like that's it. And this continues with the theme of some people not getting to play the game in various scenarios.
Yeah.
My pros at the scenario is almost fun. In terms of the campaign, it's like so close to being good. And if they had just like shaved like 20 cards out of the mythos deck, like 1 or 2 of the things, I think it'd be fine.
Yeah, it's
Also, if they had fixed the brain issue.
it's kind of like exactly like what I was trying to put into words with mine as well. Like there's some ideas that are really cool. Like each layer of the hill having like a different kind of theme to it. In like if you're walking through the woods or an alternate like reality, right? It's cool, but I think it was just like there's just too much bloat.
Yeah, I think when we first reviewed this pack, just as like we have a series about that we do after we finish the campaign the first time, where we talk about what we think about them. I forgot that this one existed as a separate entity to the next one.
Yeah. To make it even a worse,
like-
to give this a little like to put that even more perspective, we actually play it twice before. So
Yeah,
Bryn played
yeah.
this scenario twice and just forgot about it.
I
Notable,
got
Yeah.
really good. Are you done talking, Brent?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Okay, this is Travis's first hot take of the thing, but I think that not counting Blood on the Altar, this is the best scenario to buy for standalone play. I think this if you can get past the like needing brain for things, which is something that you should be incorporating into your decks anyway because of how often the game attacks it, that this is a scenario that is relatively self-contained in terms of story, and offers a variety of challenges that can be good for trying out different cards in your deck.
You know what, Travis? I actually agree with that because I went through them all, and apart from like the deluxe, which are like perfect for picking up, but for the Mythos packs, I would agree. This one is kind of the easiest to go in without like the full scope of the story. Same with Blood on the
I still think Blood on the Altar is better because it's just a better scenario. I think if you're looking specifically for scenarios to play, this should be your second pick.
Interesting. I dig it. Notable cards, as Bryn said, there's the Strange Solution upgrades. Bryn, Ace in the Hole.
Oh,
and
yeah,
Fine
so
Clothes.
Ace,
Those are both yours.
yeah, Ace in the Hole is just 0 for a free turn. Like, that's it. It's fast. It's 0. You take 3 more actions this turn. If you can't do what you needed to do with 3 extra actions, what the hell are you doing? And Fine Clothes, I play Fine Clothes in like all kinds of decks. You might look at it and think this card isn't good unless I'm parlaying. But 1 resource and a card for a 1/1 soak is actually like the best that like non-yellow gets.
I mean, honestly, as well, like just watching you play it lately, it's like you've really shown that it actually is useful a lot, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's all kinds of enemies that ask you to parlay with them.
Yeah.
And a lot of their parlay tests are like 2 or 3 to start with. So you're just like, you walk up and there's a poltergeist terrorizing one of your teammates, and you're like, look how well I'm dressed. And the poltergeist is like, oh, I'm very sorry, sir. I'll go away.
And Travis and I are just lucky that you play it, because then we don't have to. But you're just you always look good in your fine clothes.
Yeah, and like it just takes some damage for you otherwise.
And then, Travis, you had Moonlight Ritual, which I do think is actually a very notable card on here, and I'll let you
talk about the other 2 cards real quick.
Sure.
Part of the reason I think that Fine Clothes is so good is because there's so few options for body slot cards right now, and if they like introduce actual cards for that, then like they've started to with like Robes of Endless Night and stuff like that. I think Fine Clothes become like a little bit worse, still good, but and then Ace in the Hole also comes with one of the biggest benefits of playing green cards. Is you get to like hit your teammates with cool one-liners, and they're like, "Oh my god, how's all this stuff gonna get there?" And you're like, "Don't worry, I got an ace in the hole." And you play it, and they're like, "Wow, he's so cool."
It has a similar effect to watch this for Travis.
Moonlight Ritual is like super important in the Doom Matters build because one of your biggest payoffs is Blood Pact, and it lets you like use that as well as your other Doom things for. You don't have to time it with when the Doom is going to take over or account for playing. Like the cards that give you Doom for a benefit are really interesting in that you're basically sacrificing the number of turns you get for like things now. So like you're kind of gaining tempo, but the game gets inevitability on you.
Yeah.
Which if you don't understand that sentence, you should go watch our tempo video. It'll make more sense. But Moonlight Ritual does a really good job of mitigating that, especially with Blood Pact in particular, which is permanent. So it's like pretty hard to get the Doom off. Whereas a lot of other cards, you can just like
do it,
play another card in that slot, or sacrifice them, or like the actual card sacrifice, or just like have your David Renfield or Alyssa Graham jump in front of an enemy attack or whatever.
Yeah.
That one you're pretty much stuck with the idea of like, I want the Doom off this, I guess I'll die.
Sweet. Let's move on to the final scenario where you gotta travel through space as the entire universe bends around you. And there's also a really big, notable Old One boss waiting for you as well. Bryn, what are your pros and cons?
I feel like this one is it's a very solid end for this story. It feels epic, like one of these Old One fights should. And it's just this one might be my favorite out of the pack.
Nice.
The downsides to it are like if you're playing Truce to me, or like if you're playing Truce solo, you won't win. Like
Probably won't win.
Yeah, like it's very hard to get. Just the way it works does not. If there's only one of you drawing cards off the deck, you're not going to see the parts that you need to see.
Yeah. I also just have to say, for Travis's con, did I read your writing right? Because I don't know. No. I didn't check. I made these morning.
No, it was supposed to be Yogg.
Oh, okay. well, Travis will correct me when we get to that, but all right. For me, the pro for this scenario is that this is true Arkham Horror feeling right here. Like, if you played Arkham Horror 2nd Edition, Like, like the fighting the big bads are like the exciting part of like the thing, and this is when you actually get to do it in their domain for once, which is super different and super exciting. I remember the first time through, I was like, this is why this one is my favorite, because like it can do things that the other games can't because they're limited to a board, right? This one, like, we are in space, and as Travis says in his pro, I agree with that. This also it's a really fun scenario. It's really good. I think it's the best. As I said, Blood on the Altar is my favorite. This is my second favorite, and I think this one is better design than Blood on the Altar because it's like doing more and it's a bit more engaging. However, the location gimmick that Travis, I'll let him talk about it as a pro. It's really cool, but it can be a bit RNG dependent and frustrating because of that, especially in true solo mode. Travis.
So I have it written down here. This is easily the best scenario. And like when we played through the first time, that was true. We played this and it just blew our minds how cool it was. It was fun. We were having a blast. It was just, space is cool. It's like you spend the entire campaign doing like relatively mundane things. You're going to speakeasy, you're checking out the school, you're on a train, you're in some little backwater hick village, and then you're just in space. And you're like, damn.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. The location card gimmick is really, really cool and fun, something they revisited. And earlier in this video, I mentioned that I think Blood on the Altar is my favorite now. And I think that this scenario has lost a little bit of its luster with other scenarios that they've released that do this concept a little bit better, whereas they haven't done a better version of Blood on the Altar. But this is still like a really good, really fun scenario. And you'll have a good time playing with it. My cons, you will not eat your brain. Yogg will. You might have heard my papers rustling as I flip through them to check, like, did I really write you? But yeah, Yogg Sothoth, your big, scary, ancient one, he'll eat your brain. And it sucks when it happens. And also, guns don't work so good in space. I believe the context for that is that, like, there aren't so many enemies to fight in this one, and it's a little bit of a struggle if you can't get clues. Like, there's some enemies to fight, but it's not nearly as enemy-heavy as a lot of the other scenarios in this one. And this is another one where, like, especially if your character, like, if you didn't put in any cards to get clues, like, you are going to struggle. It's another one of those scenarios where sometimes people just don't get to play.
That is definitely something that they've improved upon in future cycles, though. It's very notable in Dunwich, not so much in future ones. Just for reference as well, if you are like, are all cycles like this? No. They've gotten a lot better.
Yeah, they always make sure to give you like you could kill this guy to get clues.
Yeah.
Or like, if you gain enough clues, you could use your clues to not have to fight this guy.
Yeah.
There's
Travis.
always an option for that.
Notable cards for you.
Did I have all these on my list?
No, you have just had good cards, so you could just like...
Oh, okay.
If there's any that jump out at you, you can talk about them.
Shriveling 5 is sick. It's the big gun for...
Uh-oh.
Justin, where the hell is the lightning gun? Did that not come out in this cycle?
No one put it on their list.
What?
I know.
Okay, well, lightning gun's cool for whatever pack that came in. This is like lightning gun, but for purple people.
It was in this pack, so lightning gun is in this pack. It's not in the notable cards, but we'll put it in spirit.
Vicious blow made the list, but not lightning gun. Oh my god. Yeah, but doing damage to enemies is really cool. Like, this pack is just full of the big experience, big payoff, shiny cards that, like, you buy them and you're like, yeah. And then you play them and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, this is the Mythos pack, because it was the first final one where you had, like, these are the exciting big cards. And, like, now each cycle ends with that. Like, they're, like, the big ones.
For the most part.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some deviation from that in the recent ones.
But yeah, these cards are they're cool. They're fun to play with. They're expensive, experience-wise, especially this gold pocket watch, which might actually be my favorite green card in the game.
Oh,
A big
man.
part of that's the art. I love how it's got the Elder Sign star inscribed in the top, and it's yellow and glowing, and it shows that it's like any card that has the Elder Sign in the art. I'm like, this is a good card, except for Crystalline Elder Sign.
I will say,
Crystalline
Travis, I
Elder Sign
thought
is
you were
good.
going to
I
say
disagree.
Gold Pocket Watch was your favorite because you got to get the benefit while Bryn paid for it.
I wouldn't ever admit that out loud.
Bryn, anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, the gold pocket watch is sick. Your team's like, I don't know how we're gonna get through this, and you're like, don't worry, I got a plan.
Double up the Mythos phase.
Yeah, and then you just troll them by taking an extra mythos phase, and they're like, oh god, what have you done? But yeah, you play the card, and you're like, yes, and your teammates are also like, yes. Yeah, and the red gloved man is just sick.
Yeah.
Who is he?
He's
We
so cool.
don't
He just
know.
shows up.
Yeah, he's just there for a little bit. He's Gandalf.
He's Gandalf, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Vicious Blow is just punch deduction, so that's sweet. And that's it. That is our Dunwich Legacy buy-in guide. I don't think we're going to have like a fixed weekly schedule for this. It might come out like every 2 or 3 weeks, but we do promise we're going to get through every cycle. And then we're also going to do the return tune. If there's anything else you want to know about buying this game, let us know in the comments because, I mean, dude, we'll make a video about freaking anything for Arkham Horror. I don't care.
What about overall? I'm not done talking about this cycle yet. I got another hot
Go
take.
for it then.
I think that without the return to and having played all the other ones, this is the worst cycle gameplay-wise. So I have points to support this view as well.
Okay.
So there's a lot of scenarios where someone on your team just kind of doesn't get to play. Whether it's your clue getter in the gambling one, or it's whoever is in charge of the stalking shadow, whatever it's called, hunting horror, that's what it is. Or it's someone who doesn't have high enough brain to explore the new locations and where doom awaits. Or maybe you're stupid and you didn't bring any guns. There's magic to fight the avian thralls. That kind of stuff. There's a lot of opportunities people just don't get to play. There's a lot of traps for new players in this one, especially where, again, if you don't bring enough things to consistently boost your brain, you're going to have a very bad time. And also, so this one's like a lot more of a meta thing. This campaign has a lot of classic Arkham moments that feel like they're sort of ported over from the board games.
That's fair.
Where, those scenarios where you're playing Eldritch Horror and you go on a clue encounter and you get cursed, and then the monsters spawn, you're the lead investigator, and a wraith spawns and it curses you again and you get devoured and you're like, cool. Or you're playing Arkham Second Edition and you're like, well, we gotta go. You're trying to seal up Azathoth. You go through that Relia gate, and the game's like, stay here next turn, next card, stay here next turn, next card. Cthulhu shows up and he's like 1v1, bro, and you're like, cool. Like, those are really fun and like memorable for board games. But when you're on pack 5 or 6 of this one, and the game just like, sweeps your legs out from under you and curb stomps you, it's not fun when you have committed 7 or 8 hours to playing this scenario and that kind of stuff happens to you. And you see that a lot of that stuff, they've moved away from it, especially in like you don't see any of that kind of blind side. If you tap the conglomeration of spheres with your machete breaks, or check it out, here's this tough avian thrall, hope you brought a gun, you idiot. And you're like, I didn't, but cool.
I agree with you on the point that I feel like this is the worst designed. I'm not going to call it gameplay because I'm playing through this one right now and I'm having 5 times more fun than I did in like any of my Circle Undone playthroughs. I don't like Circle Undone anymore. Like, it's easily my worst. But I do agree completely that I think this is the worst designed cycle. I agree with that 100%.
I would rather play this personally. I'd rather play the Circle Undone than this one without the return twos. When I was playing with my family, I was going to be like, we're going to play this through the base levels. They can just kind of experience it with the difficulty it was designed with. And then I was setting up and I'm like, man, I don't want to play these scenarios.
And that's
just
fair.
Play the more difficult ones.
They're also really old. Like we played these ones a bunch too, which definitely also like makes the flaws that much more apparent. But There's still a lot of good here, but there also is, like, especially on the design side, some negative as well. Any thoughts you want to add to this, Bryn?
Oh, I think most of the negative aspects of this campaign are balanced out by the strength of the player cards that exist in it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
How this one is like, it's not a cycle I would ever want to do without. Like even if not all of the encounters or scenarios are that good, some of them are, and without the player cards, most of the decks I build probably couldn't be finished. So.
But yeah, no, it's
advantage player card wise, picking up only like the deluxe and one or two of the mythos packs.
Yeah, if you're just looking for player cards, yeah.
Yeah. This one does have very strong player cards in it, though.
He does. I don't disagree. But also, if you buy this cycle, I hope you like playing yellow because they're good.
It's dripping in yellow. Of this note as well, if anyone's watching, if you want to give your thoughts on Dunwich Legacy as well for people who are prospectively buying, go put it in the comments down below, right? Like, the thing is, like, there's a lot of opinions on this game, and that's what makes it so exciting, especially because, like, there's just so much, right? Like, so many different perspectives you can look at this to determine if this is for you or not. And the more perspectives you can get, the better it'll be for you. So hopefully this video helped.
That's why we give you 3.
Pardon, Travis?
That's why we give you 3.
Exactly. Anything else, or are we good to say goodbye to everybody?
No, I'm done now.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.